Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Lance here, and bringing you guys another video today. This one is significantly less controversial today, so I know you're probably upset, but today I'm going to chat with you guys about 6 critical keys to burn literally 2 times the fat in half the time. I know that sounds crazy, but I've been doing this for about 15 and a half years, so I've gotten a little good at this stuff, so you're going to want to take some notes. Nevertheless, guys, if you're watching live or if you're watching replay, be sure to comment hashtag live or hashtag replay in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from also, and be sure to let me know which of these 6 you knew about or you're practicing. So here we go. Number 1, guys, in order to burn 2 times the fat in half the time, there are 6 things that we're going to be focusing on. Now, are there other ones? Absolutely. Now, does this mean that these are like the cure-all? Does this mean that this is like going to fit everybody's workout style? No, not at all. This is specifically on the goal of cutting more body fat quicker, especially for those who are high achievers, who are super busy, etc., and don't want to live in the gym. So if that's you, keep listening. But even if it's not you, even if you're already spending more time in the gym, you're still going to want to understand these because it's going to help you to improve your metabolism and keep more fat off so you can reveal the muscle that you've been working on. So nevertheless, guys, very first thing that we focus on when focusing on making sure that we're burning more fat in less time. Number 1, we use interval style training. Why? Because it creates the afterburn effect and it helps to stimulate muscle as well. So interval style training, you can do this with cardio, but when we're talking about interval style here, I'm going to say that interval style using resistance training is going to be far more efficient and effective for burning body fat, and because the more lean body mass that we put on your frame, it's going to speed up or accelerate your metabolism or ability to burn fat. Because muscle is costly, it takes energy or fuel to keep it. So using interval style training, this can be high intensity interval, this can be interval style cardio, but this can also simply be that when you're doing lifting, as far as like regular conventional weightlifting styles, that you're not taking long rests between sets. You're actually doing interval style, which means that you're taking an active rest. And what that means is that instead of doing a bench press and then walking around for 3 minutes while you're building up to do it again, or even 1 minute if you're more the standard in the gym, instead of doing this, you might go from a bench press and then you might do some sort of cardio, or if you're doing standard lifting, it would be a bench press and then maybe you would do some flies, or maybe a bench press and then maybe something for back. This is an interval style. You're giving that particular muscle a little bit of a break, but you're not doing nothing. And this is helping to keep an active rest. So we're burning more calories and thusly killing more body fat. So the number 2 thing, okay, I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Number 2 is use legs as often as possible. So if you're not body sculpting or a bodybuilder, in which case you're doing a bro split where you're doing 3, 4, 5 days a week where you're doing separate body parts, then I would highly encourage you to do a couple different things. You can do 3 days a week, in which case you're doing full body, that works your legs 3 times, or you can do something to where you're possibly doing upper, lower, upper, and then the next week doing lower, upper, lower. That puts, or you're doing 2 in a week, upper, lower, upper, lower. These sort of things means that you're working your legs more frequently. Why do we do this? Well, number 1, because the legs are going to be a very large muscle group, and that means that it's going to utilize a lot of calorie burn when we're doing it. The second thing is that there are hormones that get stirred up when we're working the legs. That's a whole different thing. But the cool thing is that when we're focusing on our legs, not only because of the fact that we are burning more calories because it's a bigger muscle group, it is a bigger muscle group, in which case the more muscle we put on, the faster the metabolism is. So the one thing I didn't mention also with the interval style training is that when you're doing cardio, you're burning calories, but you are not creating what's known as an afterburn effect. The afterburn effect is basically to which after an intense bout of some form of resistance style training or an interval, your metabolism is going to you're going to be burning calories at a higher rate for anywhere from between 20 to about 26 hours after a workout. This happens from interval style and this happens from weight training. It does not happen from cardio nearly as much. So this is why doing interval style training is going to be more effective. And I just didn't want to forget that part. So the afterburn effect. All right, guys, number 3 is going to be compound movements, okay? So we're going to talk about 2 things here, compound movements and compound exercises. This is number 3 and 4. So a compound exercise is going to be an exercise, for example, where we're putting in 2 different exercises together. That's a compound exercise, meaning like in, let's say a burpee would be an up down with a push up, or let's say like a bent over row with a deadlift, or maybe something to where like a lunge with a curl. This is an example of a compound exercise. It's recruiting more muscle groups together, all working simultaneously. It means you're going to be burning a lot of calories, and again, we're still building up more muscle. The other cool thing is it's going to keep your time shorter in your workouts, so that again, you're burning twice the fat in half the time. These things work, guys. These are not an opinion. These are things that work. I do this every day. So if you want, you can go, well, that's not true, or that's not whatever, or you can do it and you can start getting results. So that's a compound exercise, combining 2 exercises together to make one new exercise to burn more or to activate more muscle groups. Now, a compound movement is another one that we use, and a compound movement is like an isolation movement versus a compound. An isolation movement is like a tricep push down that we only focus on the triceps and we only use one joint, the elbows. Whereas a squat, we're using the knee joint and the hip joint, which 2 joints is going to make it a compound movement. So that compound movement is where we are also using not only 2 or more joints, but we're using more muscles as well. So a compound movement, a squat, a push-up, a shoulder press, these are always going to be significantly more costly on energy than an isolation move. Now, do isolation moves have their advantages? Absolutely. I'm not telling you to avoid those. But if your focus is body fat alone right now and being toned, then I highly suggest you focus on compound movements and compound exercises, especially if time is of the essence for you. Why? Because we can use interval, we can use compound movements and compound exercises, give you a 25-minute workout that you burn like 600 calories. You can't do that in cardio or regular weight training in that short of a time. When we do these things, you can, and it's epic. Now, there are ways to do this that are wrong. I'm not telling you to just pile all this stuff together and just start kicking your butt. So often I see people burning themselves out because they push too hard, they train too hard, and they either cause an injury or they burn themselves right out before they ever see results. Don't do that. I'm telling you, these are the effective techniques, but it doesn't mean that you just insert them all into one. You got to make sure it fits your lifestyle. Otherwise, this is all irrelevant. All right, guys. So number 5, aim for more intensity over duration. That's what all this is about. We're focusing on making sure that we're decreasing rest, increasing our time under tension, and making sure that throughout this process, we're recruiting big muscle groups to help us burn a lot of calories. So when we focus on intensity, one simple way to do this is simply by slowing down your tempo. Momentum is an outside force, and if I'm swinging the weight up to get a curl like this, I'm using momentum and not my biceps. But if I slow myself down and I begin contracting and not using other muscles to pull that up, now all of a sudden I'm going to be isolating the biceps more, which means more stress or intensity on that muscle. The more intensity and stress over a period of time is going to create a larger muscle. And I don't mean like if you're watching this, whether a guy or a girl, and you're thinking, I want to be toned, but I don't want to look bulky. Trust me, I bust my butt trying to get bigger on a regular basis, and it's one of those things that takes forever. If you're thinking that you're just gonna like start doing some things and all of a sudden you're gonna be my size, it's not gonna happen, trust me. And the fact is that, again, never mind, we'll just move on from there. All right, so intensity over duration. So often people try and do long workouts instead of focusing on doing the right workouts. Make sure that your form is dialed in, your time under tension is perfect, and make sure that you're really connecting with each muscle that you're focusing on. This is how we get more intensity. Duration does not necessarily mean more calories burned. It does mean that you're going to be away from your family longer, and a longer workout is usually something to be dreaded more so. Let's avoid that. All right, the very last one, guys, is called RPE. We're going to use this technique RPE stands for rating of perceived exertion. RPE is something that I have my clients use if they're not using our MyZone belt. The RPE is a manual way of kind of determining your intensity level. So a lot of times what people do is they're like, all right, cool, just listen to Lance's video talking about working out harder, and they just start just crushing in the gym, and then they get burnt out, or they get an injury, or they're so sore that they can't even stay as consistent as what they want. So what's the technique? We use the RPE. So the RPE is just simply, there's several methods, but we're going to talk about the one that's the easiest. And that is on a scale of 1 to 10. I want you to simply, while you're working out, think of how tired or exhausted you feel on a scale of 1 to 10. It doesn't necessarily just mean tired or exhausted. It means how are you feeling overall. So for example, if you're working out and I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? From scale of 1 to 10, 1 is like the equivalent of being a total couch potato. You're sitting here, you're not doing anything. If you're working out, you should not be a 1. Otherwise, it means that you're not doing anything, okay? So 1 is the beginning scale. I'm a couch potato. 10 is like I need an ambulance to come peel me off the floor because I'm like, I can't breathe, can't talk, I am dead. That's not what we want. So 1 to 10, what we're looking for is to keep you as often as possible between a 7 and an 8 throughout your 25 to 30 minute workout. If you do this, you're going to burn a ton of calories, but it's also going to be a moment that's going to prevent you from being so winded you can't talk, so that you don't have a negative experience. You're not going to pass out. It's going to prevent you from feeling like you're going to die. And that means that your experience, you still burn a lot of calories, but instead of overdoing it because you don't know what's good enough, it prevents you from doing that so that good enough is good enough. And then guess what? Tomorrow you'll be a little sore instead of severely sore. So you're going to be inclined to want to do it again. And that means you're going to be able to get results and build consistency. So guys, there are the 6 critical keys to burn 2 times the fat in half the time. I hope that they help you. They should help you. If you take them and apply them, I promise they will. If this has been of any help at all, be sure to comment #volume in the comments below. Don't forget to let me know which one of these you knew and you're already practicing, which one is going to be the first one that you're going to add in